guys, it's Becky, and I am going to be doing some beaded links that I'm making with bead weaving. This is going to be project number 5 in my September chain challenge, which I have challenged myself to make at least 2 beaded chains for the entire month of September. Most of my other chains I've done using craft wire and making beaded links, putting a bead on there and making some loops. And I wanted to challenge myself with this project to make some beaded chain, but have the link that I made that's beaded be completely bead woven. So I actually had several iterations of this that I went through. The first one, I grabbed a bead like this and I did some brick stitch around it, and then I did like some ladder stitch loops on each side, and I got to the end of that and I said, you know what, the whole point of this is to enjoy what I'm doing and not to make it such a tough slog that it's tons of different techniques and things. So I was like, all right, let's do something that's a little more simple, a little bit easier for us to use, and that makes it easier to attach it to a chain. So that's why I've come up with these links. And I think that these would be great in like earrings or linked together as a bracelet or something like that. But for my challenge, I'm doing beaded chain necklaces. And so I've got my links here, and then I've got 10 1-inch lengths of sterling silver curb chain cut that I'm going to be attaching my links with. I also have some 5mm jump rings, a lobster clasp for closure. And so this is when we get to the assembly part, I'm going to pull those out. For actually weaving the links though, these are the materials that I'm using. I'm using 2 different colors of 11/0 seed beads. I'm using 1 color of 8/0 seed beads. I'm using 5mm fire polish check glass and 3mm fire polish for this. And so I'm just going to pull off a couple of these from my strand. That's the 3mm. I'm going to set it right here next to my 8/0s. And I'm going to pull off some of these 4mm check glass beads. I'm going to put those there. We're going to get ready to make our components. Let me go over my tools real quick. For cutting my chain, I used some flush cutters. For opening and closing jump rings, I'm going to be using chain nose pliers. Any kind of pliers will work for that. Using some scissors to cut my beading thread. And I am using a wide-eye beading needle for my beading. You can use a regular English style beading needle if you are more comfortable with that. I prefer wide-eyed because I'm terrible at stringing or threading my needles with teeny tiny eyes and thick thread. I'm much better at threading like embroidery needles or regular sewing needles. I'm getting better at doing it with the regular needles, but I still really like doing this. And so I'm going to pull off, you do not need a lot of thread for this, so I'm just going to pull off about an arm's length. When I was making these all together, I pulled off a wingspan to work with, and then when I was finished with the first link and I cut it off, I just used the same length of thread that was already on my needle for the next one. So I'm just getting about an arm's length, something that's comfortable to work with that will give you some flexibility. And let me pull out my 2 colors of beads. I've got my color A, which is this darker purple, and then this color B, which is this soft lilac-y color. So let me get my color B out here. I don't need a lot of it. It's okay. Just get some of it out here on the beading surface. Get out some of my color A out here, and then we will zoom in and start looking at how to construct this. So I wanted to keep it fairly simple, and I spent a lot of time thinking about how I can attach my links to a chain And that's why I came up with using the 8/0 seed beads on the ends. It's because they are wide enough in that hole for a jump ring to go through. So I'm just gonna put my thread through here on my wide-eye needle. And now we're ready to go. But yeah, so let's scooch it a little closer so you can see what we're doing. And the 8/0 has a wide enough hole that I can have a couple of passes of thread through here for reinforcement and also be able to fit the jump ring through in order to attach it to the wire. Now you could, instead of using 8/0s, you could use wire guardians. That is definitely something you could do, especially if you prefer doing that instead of using all seed beads for your link. Or if you don't have some 8/0s that go with your 11/0s. I just wanted to tell you too that all of these beads, except for the 8/0s, came in this last month's curated collection from Beads to Live By, which I'll link to my unboxing for that in the description so you can see all of the other beads that came with it. But I really like being able to have, you know, beads that I know will go together to be able to work with. And also, I think you've got 2 more days after today to sign up for the next month's shipment, but you can subscribe anytime for that. Oh, sorry. Seed beads is one of the subscriptions. They've also got 2 whole beads. That's a second subscription. I subscribe to both. And then there's optional fire polish and Czech glass add-on bundles. That's where this one came from too. So I'm putting all these together using that because I like using the stuff that I've got. All right, so to start, I'm going to start by making 1 loop. We're going to start by making 1 loop. We're going to make a little right angle weave unit. Then we're going to make a second loop. And then after that, we'll go back and do an embellishment on the top. So to make the first loop, you can start with a stop bead if you want. I'm just going to pinch my thread here to keep it from going anywhere. It's what I'm comfortable with. You may not be comfortable with that, and in that case, I would recommend putting a stop bead. So what I'm going to do is pick up 1 of my 4mm fire polish beads, 3 of my first color of seed beads, 1 8/0, and then 3 more seed beads. And then I'm going to push this down next to where I'm pinching my thread here on the end. And I'm going to want to go through all of these beads again in the same direction that I'm already going with my thread. So I'm going to do it from the bottom like this. If you want to just go through a couple of beads at a time, you are welcome to do that. Do whatever you are comfortable with for beading. I'm going to pinch these and pull my thread through. And now I've got, by virtue of that, 2 passes through my loop, so I don't need to reinforce this anymore. And I'm going to just go back through this. And now I've got my first loop done. Now for my right angle unit is basically a multiple of 4 beads that are sewn in a circle. And by virtue of it being 4 beads, it puts it into a square shape. So I've already got 1 of my beads for my right angle unit, so I need to add 3 more in order for it to be a multiple of 4. So I'm going to pick up 4 of my 4mm fire polish beads. And I've got my thread coming out of, if I'm holding this up and down in front of me, I've got it coming out of my right side. So I'm going to sew through the opposite side so that my thread is going in the same direction, because I'm just making a big circle with my thread and with these beads. And you see how it lines up into a little square? That's our right angles, hence the right angle bead. So you got those, and I'm going to reinforce this by sewing through all of these beads one more time. every single one of my 4mm fire polish in my little right angle unit. All right. And now I want to get my thread over here to the opposite bead from where I started so that I can sew a loop here. To do that, I'm just going to sew through 2 more of these beads so that I'm coming out of this bead that's on the opposite side of the unit from the first one. And I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs, 1 8-oh, and 3 11-ohs. And this is still color A. We have not got to our color B yet. And with this, it's going to be the same thing. I want to make a circle with my beads and my thread. So whatever hole I'm coming out of for this, I'm going to sew into the opposite hole in the same direction that that thread is going, like this. Now, I've only got 1 pass of thread through here, so to reinforce it, I'm going to sew through all of these beads up here one more time. You can go 1 bead at a time, you can do 3 beads at a time. It all depends on how you want to do it. Whoop. It's fine, everything's fine. This will reinforce it, make it so that it's not gonna, snap on you. Although we're not gonna be hanging anything super heavy off of here. I'm not gonna have like a big heavy focal hanging off of it. It's gonna be, more seed beads. So it's not going to need to carry a ton of weight. And what you could do is you could sew back through here and tie this off, and this could be your link if you wanted to leave it like this. I think it would look great. It would be a really pretty link. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna actually embellish this with my additional beads. So for this, I'm going to pick up 2 of my seed bead B color. And you can do this with the same color beads. You don't have to do 2 different colors of seed beads. You could have it all be the same color if you wanted. 1 of my 3mm fire polish. And 2 more seed beads. And you could possibly replace this 3mm fire polish with another 8-oh seed bead. I don't recommend replacing the 8-ohs in this pattern with a fire polish bead though, because I don't know if the jump ring will go through the hole in the fire polish bead. But I know for a fact that it will through the 8-ohs. All right, so where I'm going with this, now that I've got these on my needle, I want to make a Z with my thread. So I've already got it going up here along the top of it this way. I want it to go diagonally this way and then through this bead. So whatever hole this is coming out of, I want to go into the hole on the opposite bead on the opposite side, diagonally, like that. And you could leave this embellishment like this. There's nothing wrong with it. It kind of looks like the cool S that you made in middle school, which is why it's kind of cool. But I'm going to just finish up my embellishment by adding a couple more seed beads. I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads. These are my B color. And then where you've got the fire polish, you've got it kind of like, if this is the top and this is the bottom, I'm going to want to go up through the bottom hole like that. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more seed beads, like so. Go through this top seed bead, or this top 4mm bead, one more time. You can reinforce this if you want. Since this isn't really part of the structure though, I'm not gonna. It's just there for embellishment and for decoration. So I am going to try to meet up with this existing thread. This was my tail that I left. 3 to 4 inches. So I'm going to sew through here to where that is coming out. And I am going to tie a knot with this. Now there's like a lot of debate in the bead weaving world whether you should tie knots, whether you shouldn't tie knots. I like tying knots. I feel a little more secure about it, especially when you've got a small project like this and when there's going to be some pressure on it structurally. So I'm tying a knot. I'm doing an overhand knot first, and then I'm doing 2 wraps around the loop for my second pass so that it makes a surgeon's knot. And before I cut it, I'm going to pass my needle just a little bit further away from where the knot is before I cut my thread. So it's coming out of this. That's my knot is over here on this side, so it's coming out of here. And then I can cut this. I actually had some better snips that I was using, but those are in the other room. So I'm going to use my terrible ones, and I can burn that off later. Didn't have to do anything with my snips, but here we go. So now I can take, this is another reason why I like my big eye needles. So I can take this off of here, and I can stick it onto my thread here and sew this away from the knot and cut it off there. Sorry about that. My dogs are playing in the background. Come here. This is why I should have gotten my snips. All right. So now I have my link. Bloop. All right, I'm going to put this over here with the others so I can show you guys how I'm going to make my focal. It's going to start very much the same way. All right, so got our thread on our needle. We're going to pick up one of the 4mm fire polish beads. Again, just like we started the other one. 3 of the 11-0 seed beads for color A. 1 8-0 and 3 11-0s. Trying to cover up the very interesting piles of beads over there that my camera thinks is the most important part of this. It is not the smartest camera in the world. That's fine. And just like the other ones, we're going to go through all of these again so that we've got our loop that is pre-reinforced. I'm going to go through my fire polish again so that my loop is complete. I'm going to make one more right angle weave unit with my 3 other fire polish beads. And I'm coming out of the top of this bead if I'm holding it on the side like that. So I'm going to go into the bottom with my needle to make a loop and form my little square. I'm going to reinforce this. Right. Way through here. Alright, now for this part, this is where it's going to differ from the previous lengths that I made. For this part, I'm going to pick up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of my color A seed beads. And then I'm going to sew into my medallion coin, 2 sides. And I'm going to pick up one of my color A seed beads. I could use color B. That's something I could do if I wanted to. And I'm going to sew back into this bead right here to anchor this. I cut my tail thread. There you go. Let's tuck that out of the way. And I'm going to sew through this fourth 11-0 seed bead, the one that's right next to it. I'm going to sew up through it from the same direction that I was coming up out of my coin bead. Try not to get my thread caught on anything. I'm really good at that. And now I'm going to pick up 3 more seed beads. And this is my A color seed beads. And I'm going to sew. I've got this thread coming here off of this side. If I'm hanging it upside down, it's the left side. I'm going to sew into the right side of this fire polish right there. So that I have 3 seed beads on this side, 1 seed bead that's shared between both sides. The thread goes through this coin bead and then through my anchor bead here at the bottom, back up through the coin bead and this one that's shared, and then I have 3 more beads over here. And so they kind of make a little V shape here. I'm going to reinforce this by sewing through these 3 beads on this side. And I'm catching my, so that's up through here. And I'm going to skip all of this nonsense and I'm going to sew back through these 3 seed beads on this side, and that's how I'm reinforcing this part of my dangle. I was trying to avoid it catching on that. There we go. So now that is reinforced, and this, by the way, would make a fantastic pair of earrings. I'm going to go back through my fire polish bead, and I am going to embellish this the same way I did my other ones. So I'm going to just grab 2 of my color Bs, 1 of my 3mm fire polish beads, and 2 of my color Bs, like so. I'm going to make a Z with my thread by sewing into the opposite corner on the opposite side that my thread is coming out of on the top. And I'm going to pick up 2 more seed beads. This is the color 2. So from the bottom to the top through my 3mm fire polish. Try not to get my threads all discombobulated and tangled up. There we go. That's appropriate. And then grab 2 more of my color Bs. So through my 4mm fire polish that this was coming out of on the opposite side, so that it makes an X. Excellent. Anyway, now I'm going to sew through this side of the work to get to where my originating thread, my tail thread, is coming out, and I'm going to tie it off just like I did with the other one. Tying it off, and then we will move our thread through the work before we cut it off. And I did find my thread snips, so it's not going to be as much of a pain using my not very good for anything scissors that I use to open up like the plastic things that beads get strung on. I use those scissors for that, so they're not fantastic by any means. They get the job done for some things, but for cutting thread, I want to use my thread snips. All right, so we're coming out of there, away from the knot. I'm just gonna stick this guy onto my wide-eye needle. Bloop, bloop. And I'm sorry about the lighting, guys. We finally have an overcast day here. We've had like no rain for like 2 months. We've had the temperatures up like above 100, sometimes above like almost 110 here for a really long time. So there's not great lighting here. I've got my desk lights on, my overhead lights, so that we can see what we're doing. See how much easier it is when you use good snips to cut your threads. Yeah, okay. So that is my focal. So while I'm up in close here, let me show you how we are going to be connecting all of these together using these one-inch lengths of curb chain and jump rings. Pull a couple more of these guys off of here. And I'm going to want to make like a Y shape with this in this. So let me open up my jump ring first of all. And when I'm opening this, I'm going to want my jump ring to be wide enough that I can swing it open and fit inside these 8/0 seed beads. You see how there's some space in there? So very carefully turn this around. And now I've got my jump ring through my 8/0 seed bead, and I can attach a length of chain to that. And close my jump ring. This assembly is going to be basically the same thing repeated for building out all of these lengths of my chain. And then on the other side, I can connect my 2 links together. The same method. We go through the 8/0 first. And if the 8/0 isn't really popping, you can use your beading needle to kind of wiggle it a little bit and to pop it up so that you can get your jump ring through it. Then I can just attach the other end of this chain to my next one. So now I'm going to attach a jump ring here, another length of chain, and then a jump ring to this one, and I'm just going to build it out as a chain, and that's all I'm going to be doing with this. Getting those in there. I am going to real quick show you just a small difference in how I'm attaching my main focal bit to my chains, because this is going to be in the center and I'm going to have both sides kind of as a Y shape on this. I'm going to want to attach 2 chains just to this main focal bit. So I'm going to open up my jump ring. I'm going to have to do that trick with my beading needle to get this guy to pop up. There we go. Oh. So this is the fiddly part. The most fiddly part is just putting this together. So I'm going to just show this to you, and then I'm going to repeat this off camera multiple times so you guys don't have to watch all of this. And when I come back, we will go over the next bits, which is going to be basically the closure and just talking about stuff. So I'm going to put on 2 lengths of chain to this one. And it's the only one that I'm going to need to do 2 lengths of chain with. Don't go anywhere. Almost lost my grip on it. And then I can attach this chain to this link. I can attach this chain to this link. And that's going to build out my necklace. So I'm going to finish the assembly, put these things together, then we will get our closure on and take a look at the finished object. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I have most of my links, well, all of my links are attached, but I do not have my closure attached. And part of the reason for that is because I wasn't sure how long this would be. I probably could have done some math before I started, but I didn't feel like doing that. So after I got all of these attached, I went ahead and measured it, and I cut a couple more lengths of the curb chain, and I attached a what is it called? A jump ring to one end and a lobster clasp to another. And I'm going to go ahead and get those installed and attached to these. Let me get one that's not as, there we go, not as far apart, to the rest of it for our for finishing this up. And I'm just opening up these 2 jump rings so that they're already open by the when I get the my things here. And I just wanted to show you another way besides using the beading needle to get your Ado to pop up so you could get in there. And that is, do not squeeze, by the way, do not squeeze on the bead with your pliers. But I'm just kind of putting the end of this under here, just kind of rocking it a little bit to expose that edge so that I can get my jump ring into here. So once I've got my jump ring in here, oh, it popped back in there. There we go. All right. Yeah, don't squeeze very hard. You do not want to break your seed beads with your pliers. Just give it a little gentle wiggle, and then you can get your jump ring through your seed bead and then attach your chain to it. And that's all there is really to assembling this necklace. Like I said, these links themselves, fairly easy, although they are the most time-consuming part of this project, making each of the links. And this part here, like I said, it would probably make a really great earring, and I might actually make some earrings like that at some point. But I've got my bead-woven links for my beaded chain. So this is my project number 5, and it is just about finished. Let me just rock this over. We're gonna rock down to Beaded Chain Avenue. There we go. I'm just making up songs right now. Well, making up lyrics to songs. There we go. Go, bloop, 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 bloop. And now it is wearable. Anyway, if you haven't already subscribed to the Beads to Live By Curated Collections, I think they're fantastic. Probably going to be opening up a new one next week. They ship out on, I think, the 14th 15th. I don't know. It's on the website. I'll link to their website. But I'll be opening a new one. I enjoy them. If you want to subscribe to them, you got a couple days till the next one goes out. Cassandra does a really, really great job at putting colors together that will go well, and I enjoy them, and it just makes it so much easier for me when I'm buying, because I get overwhelmed by all the different colors of seed beads, so it's just nice to have something put together for me. I enjoy doing that. I try to do one easy project when I do my unboxing that uses the curated collections, and then another project during the month. So this will be my second project because I did a bracelet during the first one. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you're enjoying this challenge. And I mean, even if you're not into bead weaving, hopefully you maybe learned a little something with this one. And we'll have another necklace before the end of the week. I've got my bargain bead box just got delivered, so I'll be doing an unboxing probably tomorrow with that. My Sam's bead box gets here tomorrow, so I'll be posting the unboxing for that after they do their official unboxing and reveal, because I don't want to, spoiler anyone on that. So we'll have a couple of unboxings and organizing videos this week, and then one more of the beaded chain ones, and I think that's about all that I can have on my plate for this week. But hopefully you guys are having a lot of fun and you're making some beaded chains. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that button so that you can catch some of these videos. Anyway, thanks. Bye.